The only category of personal low-tech weapons that I have not covered yet is the guns. Guns in fantasy games are a contentious topic. Some people believe them to be anachronistic, and some people just do not like the aesthetics. Personally, I'm okay with guns, but not with all guns. So let's take a look at what GURPS has to offer when it comes to low-tech firearms. Before I get to the actual guns, I have to talk about the locks. The lock is a mechanism that ignites the powder and discharges the gun. GURPS has 4 types of locks. The first and most primitive type is the cannon lock. It has a simple touch hole like a cannon's. Thrusting a handheld slow match or hot wire into the touch hole fires the gun. Cannon lock firearms appear at tier 3, unlike the more advanced guns. A slow match costs $2 and weighs 0.2 pounds per yard, burning at a rate of 1 inch per 15 minutes. You can improvise it, but it will reduce your malfunction rating. Then we have the match lock. This lock placed the burning match in a mechanical holder attached to the gun. Pulling a trigger moved the match into the touch hole. The glowing match made guns harder to conceal and highly visible at night. A critical failure on fast-draw ammo may either extinguish the match or set off the powder prematurely, causing 1 point of burning damage to the user. One of the more modern designs is the wheel lock that uses a clockwork spring and a serrated wheel. Some parts of this mechanism can be improvised with certain skills. Finally, we have the flint lock, that is the most advanced Tier 4 design. There are different variants of this lock, and those may impose the familiarity penalty. Alright, now let's take a look at the weapon tables. The thing that I noticed with firearms is that the statistics in low-tech actually are significantly different from those in the GURPS basic set, so I'll show them side by side for comparison. The first weapon category is the guns. These are primitive Tier 3 firearms. All are cannon locks. They are used with the gun's gun specialty, but this specialty was introduced only in GURPS low-tech. In the basic set, they were used with the gun's musket. Basically, this is a miniature cannon on a long wooden pole. Firing such a cannon lock requires looking at the touch hole rather than the target. This means sacrificing any accuracy bonus for aiming and incurring -2 to hit for divided attention. Some guns had 2 man crews, a man to fire the gun and a man to hold and aim it, avoiding the -2 and retaining the accuracy bonus. Only the man aiming the weapon needs the gun's skill. The one touching it off rolls against dexterity, or guns if better. Success sets it off instantly. Failure means the shot is delayed by a second, and critical failure indicates a dropped match or wire. Unlike other firearms, guns can shoot not only lead bullets, but also crossbow bolts. Weird, isn't it? Normal guns deal okay damage, but their range is not very good for guns. The handgun from the basic set is very different from the low-tech gun. Just take a look at weight and reload time. GURPS low-tech, however, also has 2 other guns. The Mr. Facing Both Ways gun, I cannot pronounce it quickly, that can be flipped around with a ready maneuver for a second shot, and a massive 10 eyes gun that has 5 barrels on each end, allowing for what can count as rapid fire at this TL. While you can have a crossbow that is more effective than a normal gun, the multi-barreled guns actually give them an edge over other ranged weapons. Pyramid 336 has a Demolisher template for GURPS Dungeon Fantasy that is based around explosives and primitive firearms. It calls guns boomsticks and introduces double and triple barrel variants. They look absolutely fine and definitely would not unbalance anything. The article also has rules for using guns in melee. You can parry with a two-handed axe or mace skill. and can also turn your gun into a combination weapon with a great axe or a warhammer. You should also keep in mind that Teal 3 firearms use serpentine powder, not corned powder. The boomsticks from Pyramid 336 use alchemical shutter sand, that is, essentially, serpentine powder. Keep it away from water and fire. And that's it for Teal 3 guns, but there are many more on Teal 4. The first category is shotguns. They deal low damage, they have low range, but due to being shotguns they can have massive effective rate of fire. For example, the effective rate of fire of 175 gives a free +7 bonus to hit. This is massive. The blunderbuss also helps with intimidation and is easier to reload while on a moving vehicle. All these shotguns are flintlocks, so this is very late TL4. Personally, I disallow them in my games. In fantasy games, many opponents will have no armor or light armor, and these weapons will simply shred such unlucky targets. Flintlocks do not exist, blunderbusses do not exist. Pyramid 336 also has the Musketeer template for Dungeon Fantasy. That one also has some blunderbusses with some new options for them. If you're planning to use one, I suggest you take a look at that article. The next weapon group is muskets. The basic set only has 2 muskets, but GURPS Low-Tech has a whole plethora of them to choose from. The arquebus, caliver, musket, teppo and winged tiger gun are matchlocks. The musket is a special case because it requires a musket rest. The teppo is special in that it uses serpentine powder despite being a TL4 gun. All of them deal good damage except for the teppo that is pretty bad. Accuracy is moderate, range is good, reload time is very long, and weight is quite high. Cost is pretty low, all things considered. I ran some calculations and despite damage being high, these matchlocks should not upset the balance too much and overshadow crossbows and bows. Remember, they are basically single-shot weapons with such long reload times. Still, in my games I decided to lower arquebus damage to 2d plus 1, caliver damage to 3d, and musket damage to 4d, and increase their costs. I want firearms to be present in my setting, but I do not want them to be ubiquitous. There are 2 wheel-lock muskets, the carbine and the wall gun. The appearance of the wheel-lock is when the firearms become better than muscle-powered weapons, due to having lower reload time compared to crossbows with comparable damage values. Wheel locks and anything more advanced than them either do not exist in my games or exist in limited numbers. The rest of the weapons, the flintlock carbine, all variants of fusil, and the puckle gun, are flintlocks, even more advanced than wheel locks. This is late TL4 technology, so if you do not want the guns to overshadow older weapons, I suggest you forbid them. But if you want to play a proper late TL4 game, go ahead. It can be very fun, I have tried it and I enjoyed it. I should mention that the fusil description hides some variants that are not present on the table, and that the flintlock carbine has a telescoping stock. By the way, there is an entire article about the puckle gun in Pyramid 352. Pyramid 336 also has some muskets for Dungeon Fantasy games. Take a look at them if you are thinking about introducing firearms in your game. The next weapon category is the pistols. GURPS Low-Tech has many on the table. The only matchlock pistol is a Tantsutsu. Despite being a TL4 weapon, it uses serpentine powder. There is a good variety of wheel-lock and flintlock pistols to choose from, and even the bizarre duck's foot pistol with some interesting special rules. Numbers-wise, even wheel-lock pistols should not overshadow other weapons, so I will allow them in my games. Yeah, wheel-lock muskets are out, but wheel-lock pistols are in, just because I said so. I find that pistols provide another option for characters with very low strength, such as halflings. Pyramid 336 has pistols for Dungeon Fantasy. I based my pistols on these stat lines because GURPS Low-Tech uses historical examples, while I was looking for something more generic. GURPS Fantasy Tech 1, The Edge of Reality, also has combination weapons, such as the gun knife, gun sword, and even gun shield. These are stylish, even if not super effective, so they are fine in my book. Finally, we have the rifles. There's only 3 of them in GURPS Low-Tech, and with their accuracy, range, cost, and reload times in mind, they might be appropriate only for late TL4 games, so in my games they are very limited. Pyramid 336 has some generic rifles for Dungeon Fantasy if you want them. GURPS Basic set has no TL4 rifles. I should also mention the air rifle from GURPS Fantasy Tech 1, The Edge of Reality. This weapon is actually very cool and has a niche. I don't think its inclusion would unbalance anything, so I allow them in my games. So, with gun stats out of the way, let's talk about the extra rules. Reloading the gun is not that straightforward. First, calibers are not standardized, so you'll have to make your own ammunition. GURPS Low-Tech describes the process and the bullet molding gear. Metal ammunition costs $20 per pound. If you are wielding a gun, make a note of how much a bullet costs for you. Second, reloading times vary depending on the lock of the gun, the side from which it is loaded, your posture, usage of cartridges, fast draw ammo, and the quick reload perk from GURPS Tactical Shooting. The reloading processes are described on pages 94 and 95 of GURPS Low-Tech, so I suggest you to calculate your reloading time with and without a fast draw ammo roll. Then I think you should familiarize yourself with the malfunction rules from GURPS Basic set. They are, in my opinion, essential for firearms, especially for the low-tech ones. The rest of the rules depend on how detailed you want to treat your firearms in your games. Enabling or omitting some of them might make firearms stronger or weaker, so you can adjust the desired power level by picking the right rules. GURPS Low-Tech has rules for wet conditions that affect firearms, and Pyramid 336 has another variant of them. The same pyramid also has rules for handling gunpowder and fire. Low-Tech also has rules for variant ammunition, careful loading, handling, cleaning, and maintenance. Finally, Pyramid 336 has rules for guns emitting clouds of smoke that impair vision, and GURPS Tactical Shooting on page 16 provides an alternative. In any case, try things out. If you do not like the result, feel free to adjust things or just embrace the gunpowder heavy fantasy. Give GURPS Tactical Shooting a read if you want some gritty gunplay, or GURPS Gun Fu if you'd like something cinematic. Both of them have many interesting options and techniques for gunslingers. And on that, I am officially done with reviewing all personal low-tech weaponry. This series helped me familiarize myself with the weaponry, remember all the forgotten rules. I found out many things that I just didn't know before. And I hope that these videos help you too. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and do all the other YouTube things. See you next time.